From a highly secure network of top secret locations across North America, this is the Spurs Insider. We made it to December. I am Mike Finger, joined by our usual panel of Express News Spurs beat writers, Jeff McDonald and Tom Orsborn, along with sports editor Nick Talbot. Jeff McDonald's in his secure location in the Painted Desert, in the Valley of the Sun. The rest of us are closer to home. But what we all have in common is we are on the bandwagon of a team that might be good, that continues to might be good. The local Cagers still above 500 heading into this recording. And Jeff McDonald, do you have any status update on the whole question of whether you cover a good team or not?
I mean, it's the 10th place San Antonio Spurs. So let's go honking. They're in 10th place.
Always putting things in perspective, but it's the 10th place in the best conference.
Yeah, if they were in the East, we would definitely be honking right now.
Yeah,
they'd be fighting for home court in the East.
Just a housekeeping issue here. As always, the Spurs Insider is in your digital players by Wednesday mornings. By the time you wake up on Wednesday morning, some people might be listening to this before the big NBA Cup showdown Tuesday night in Phoenix between the local Cagers and the Phoenix Suns. But we're not going to discuss too much NBA Cup this week because the Spurs might be in the playoffs. They might not be in the NBA Cup playoffs by the time most of you listen to it on Wednesday. So let's go back over the week that was. I think Tom and I continued our streak of correctly projecting the record each week.
Bragger.
Your Spurs won 2 of 3. The cynic, the pessimist, the gray cloud followed beat guy Jeff McDonald predicted 1 and 2. But Tom, you got it right again. Not only did the Spurs take care of business against the Utah Jazz, but they went on the road to Sacramento and had another one of their patented second half comebacks to come back against their old friend DeMar DeRozan and the Kings. What'd you think of the week, Tom?
Yeah, I mean they're playing pretty good. Playing pretty well. But it all comes back to Wemby. Jeff did a great job, I thought, in his story online and in today's Express News in summing up, just how do you describe the guy? What he did against Sacramento, just incredible. And, I think you pointed out, Mike, too, that when he scores inside, when he plays like a 7'4" guy, in addition to hitting those 3-pointers, pretty damn good.
There was a stretch, Jeff, in the second half there, and you had a close-up view of it in Sacramento, which a place I know you love, that where it was the Wembanyama that I think some of us really enjoy watching, where it was at one end of the floor, just no one was getting to the basket. He was just being like the dad. He had dad blocks. And then at the other end, he decided he was going to get to the rim and be a 7'4" guy who just couldn't be stopped. And I think the threat of the jump shots that he'd hit in that game, the threat of the 3-pointers helped him there. Like I'm not one of those curmudgeons who says that tall guys have to be close to the basket all the time. The 3-pointer is a big part of his game, always will be. He hit a huge fadeaway, like an unguardable fadeaway over Sabonis during that stretch too. But then he was just getting to the basket and doing like George Gervin scoop shots, dunks. It was fun Wemby to me. I'm wondering if you agree.
I agree, and it was a very enlightening and interesting post-game talking to acting coach Mitch Johnson and some of the players about it, because there's still this thing with us, like, what are we watching when we watch Victor Wembanyama? How is this supposed to look? Because as you mentioned, there's a segment of people, including myself sometimes, where I'm like, you're 7'3", and the guy guarding you is 6'3". Just go be like you said, be a dad, and just drop the ball in over them. Like, go be tall. Just go be
Yeah.
tall. But there was a lot of good quotes that came out of that. But the one that really stuck out to me was Mitch talking about how, he's learning how, like, he can do everything. Everything you can possibly want to do on a basketball court, he can do. And he's learning how to use all the weapons at his disposal, which are more weapons than anyone has ever had at their disposal on an NBA basketball court. So sometimes you're going to pick the wrong weapon, and sometimes you're going to mess it up. And he's going through that. I think the quote was like, when you have a menu of everything, occasionally you're going to get it wrong. You're not going to make the right choice every time. And so I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it, that the fact that he is so talented sometimes is a problem, because he has to figure out what to do in what situation. And I think that down the stretch in Sacramento, he, like, everything he did worked. And there was a time he did have one of those baskets over Malik Monk, who is 6'3". Victor is 7'3". He had one of those baskets. I think that was the game tying basket or the go-ahead basket. I think it was tying basket. And then later they needed one. It was the same situation. He's got Malik Monk on him. Like, go shoot a layup. But no, he waits for the double team to start, throws it across the court to Devin Vassell, and it's a three-pointer now. And I guess that's the right choice. Now, if Vassell misses that shot, you could probably go back and second guess it. But
Yeah.
he made the shot, and then it was a big shot. Like, it put him up 2 scores going to the final 2 minutes. I think that's kind of what loosened the game for them. So,
Well, I'm sure that closing closing segment we're talking about, that was especially maddening, I would imagine, for Mike Brown, who's no dummy, and who probably looked at the way Victor Wembanyama has played for much of this early part of the season and said, hey, we can get away with having Malik Monk be the primary defender on Victor Wembanyama, because Victor Wembanyama has not been necessarily making guards pay for being short in the post for a lot of the season. And in this particular game, he made Malik Monk and the other shorter guys, I guess everybody's a shorter guy to Victor, but the other wing guard type players who were guarding him, he made them pay. And even in the middle of that, like Jeff said, that play stood out to me, the one where he had made the little guys pay a couple times in a row, and then he had it again, and then he decided he's going to make this cross-court pass to Devin Vassell, who hit the shot, and I think that was Victor's 10th assist. And there was a part of me that was wondering, I wonder if he wanted the 10th assist to get his triple-double. Like, when you're Victor Wembanyama, you can sort of, like, he's admitted he looks at the scoreboard and looks at his stats during games. He knows what's going on. Maybe he wanted an assist there. He can just toy with teams that way. But that was a fun Victor game. It hasn't been all Victor with the Spurs so far this season, but we are seeing prime Wembanyama we're starting to get something closer to prime Wembanyama. He continues to be an amazing compliment for him as Chris Paul, though.
yeah. Well, I wanted to go back, and you mentioned Mike Brown. Or I guess he's not a friend of the podcast, but we enjoy him. He's a Spurs expatriate. But everywhere you go, even for the last year and a half now, or year and however long Victor's been here, everyone wants to ask the opposing coach about Victor and how do you stop him, and what does he look like, and how great is he, basically. And you've heard so many people, like so many coaches, just gush about him. So they asked Mike Brown that before the game in Sacramento, and he brings up Brad Sellers.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that before. That was a new one to me. He says,
You heard Brad Sellers. You just had not heard the comparison to.
Somebody had really asked him, like, this guy, he's so long and tall, and how do you deal with him? Mike Brown says, "What, do you remember Brad Sellers?" And I about fell out of my chair because it's the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. The point I think Mike was eventually getting to was, this guy Brad Sellers came along in the 80s, and we thought he was a handful. He was going to be a handful. He was 7'2" and could move and whatever. And Victor's just, you look at Victor and he's just light years beyond that. Like, it was kind of a point about how far the game has come. But I've never heard anyone bring up Brad Sellers when
In the same breath before Wemby and Brad Sellers.
It's quite absurd. The Brad Sellers and his just pull him up and he's scored how much? 6.3. Whopping 6.3.
Yeah.
6.3 points a game. Wild. It's wild.
and he wasn't being uncomplimentary. He just it was a ham-fisted way to make a point, but it made me laugh.
He had a relative who left his homework in the Big Lebowski's car. That kid's name was Larry Sellers, I think.
That's right.
Does anybody here know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I thought he his relative played the Pink Panther.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah,
I have a question.
A lot of good sellers out there.
I have a question. If this isn't prime Wembanyama, what it is?
Brad Sellers.
This last 8 games, 31.1 points, 43% from 3, 11 rebounds a game, 4.6 assists, and 3.4 blocks. If this isn't prime, what the heck is?
It's so you can read the statistics all you want, but if you watch the games, it hasn't been prime Victor yet. But like I think
that's what I'm saying. Those are MVP level stats. What the heck is prime?
Like that's the story of Wembanyama is that you watch him play and you see how he can be better. Oh, once he figures it out, he's going to have mastered that play, or he will do that better. And at the end of the day, he's got MVP level stats. That's the thing. It's crazy.
What Mitch Johnson has said more than once now is it's doing the little things, mastering the fundamentals. Like he can obviously do the spectacular stuff. We've seen it, but it's just the little things that aren't maybe won't change his final stat numbers. But it's kind of like that fourth quarter. It wasn't just the shots he made, but it's like all of a sudden he's going to get rebounds. Like I saw a difference in Victor Wembanyama in the fourth quarter in Sacramento in terms of just like, I'm going to go get this rebound now. There was difference to me in the fourth quarter version of that and the first 3 quarters. Making the simple play instead of the spectacular play and maybe turn it over. Like he had 5 turnovers in Sacramento early. It's footwork things. It's that play against Malik Monk where he actually scored at the basket. Like using a little bit of height and fundamentals and just overwhelming a guy. That's what prime Wembanyama is going to look like. And maybe it doesn't change the final box score numbers for him, but I think it changes the game for everybody else when he starts to be a master of the fundamentals as well as a master of the spectacular plays that only he can do. And once he gets that, like, I don't know, I don't want to be over dramatic, but once he gets that, it's like over. It's done.
I'm glad that you kept us on that point for a while. That was nice of you, Jeff, to step up, search yourself, say we need to talk more about Victor. I think the listeners enjoyed that. It gives me confidence in my teammates to know that they can take over for a minute.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a podcasting genius because I'm like, we should talk about Victor Wembanyama more.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know not everyone believes that, but
I want to talk about Larry Sellers some more.
What happens, Larry? What happens, Larry, when I'm not going to finish that.
He learned it. Yeah, it was a lesson. He was being taught there.
Yeah, but it wasn't his car.
Right.
This is what happens, Larry, when you stab a stranger in his back, something like that.
Backside.
I don't. That's how it went, but okay.
Yeah. Well, this is still a family podcast. We're still going for the Disney demographic.
It's like families are gathering around their telephones in the middle of like dinner to listen to that.
Yeah.
They're listening to this right after they see Moana 2.
Okay. Yeah. I mentioned Chris Paul earlier, who I do want to discuss because he still just is the epitome of everything this team needed. Like this is also a pretty obvious take to follow the Victor Wembanyama is good take, but that was a pretty good signing. And every week, every game, that becomes more and more evident. Just it seemed natural in July when it happened. It seemed obvious back then that, of course, that's the kind of guy this team needs. And a couple times this past week, though we can go all the way back to that Utah game. Chris Paul hit a huge three. Did Chris Paul stuff in the closing minutes of the Sacramento game. And I want to throw this out, like just to overreact and to be very hot takey on the podcast here. Realize I'm kind of a prisoner of the moment. And this guy's 39 years old and could, have a terrible injury in the next week or the next few months. I'm just saying, like, stuff happens. But, like, am I crazy for thinking that like Chris Paul could come back next year and do this with the Spurs again at 40?
Oh man. Wow. I didn't anticipate that question.
Well, that's what makes it a hot take. And it's ridiculous to speak about this early in the season. We don't know how it's going to go. We don't know how the next 4 months are going to go. But Chris Paul doesn't seem like a guy who's about to retire. The Trey Jones is a free agent in addition to, and we need to talk about Trey Jones later too. But Trey Jones is a free agent. Chris Paul's a free agent. There's not just, I don't think this is going to be an off season where there's a huge free agent signing for the Spurs or for anybody else. I don't think it's a huge activity free agent summer. If he's continuing to give exactly what he's giving now, like, why walk away from that?
I guess I have two thoughts. If he continues to play like he's played and you think he can continue to play this way going into next season and he wants to continue to be here, sure. Like it's worked out. So far it's worked out. I think the word is swimmingly. Swimmingly. So that's one side of it. I guess my only maybe pause would be, don't you want to hand the reins to Steph Castle at some point?
Yeah.
Get some people.
That's the other side of it. But also, like, Steph Castle and Chris Paul together, it works.
It does. But I don't even know if they're starting together once everybody gets healthy. Like, that's just something to monitor.
Might not be. They might be.
maybe-
That's the other issue there. That's a ridiculous topic to throw out.
They have way too many good players. The 10th place in the West, 10th place team in the West is just loaded.
But another reason I thought about it is because Chris Paul seems to genuinely like it here so much.
Yeah.
And part of it is just he's hooping. And this is a place where he can play and have fun and be relied upon and do game-winning things. And he might not be able to do that elsewhere. And we don't need to spend a whole segment, a whole 5 minutes talking about Chris Paul coming back next year. I just thought it was worth throwing out there that I don't think that's necessarily preposterous to think that he could be back for another season. Whereas if you would have mentioned that to me in the summer, I would have thought, oh, this is a 1 season thing. It could be like a 3-month thing before he's traded.
Yeah, I would have thought it was a 3-month thing. For sure. I think it's up to him. I think it's ultimately his decision if he wants to chase a title, if he thinks he can get one here with the progress that the alien is making. And
well, it's up to the Spurs too. They might decide that because Chris Paul's not going to play for free.
yeah,
They might decide that those resources could be better used next year. And I don't see them bringing back both Chris Paul and Trey Jones. I think they're going to need a non-Stephon Castle point guard next year, and it might come down to one or the other, or somebody from outside the organization. But that, like, I just want to reiterate that the Chris Paul fit in San Antonio is just amazing.
very good. You know what else who's fit very well, Mike Finger? Is Harrison Barnes. Much better than he looked.
Well, you missed the podcast last week. We did a lot of Harrison Barnes stuff when he was Player of the Week, and yeah, and he continues to be good. Yeah. I don't know what was the last 3 games after his Player of the Week. He didn't have Player of the Week stats again.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get Player of the Week this week. I don't think it's going to be back to back.
I think it was Shenrun got Player of the Week this week.
That's true. I think I saw that.
Yeah, the I don't want to do too much NBA Cup stuff just because of our timing, but it's worth mentioning that heading into Tuesday night's game, some of you will listen to this before the Spurs take on the Suns. The Spurs have a chance to play for a cup. That's something, I guess.
Yeah, that's like as you mentioned, we can't predict the future as we're recording this, so I don't know if they've beaten Phoenix or not beaten Phoenix, but the outcome doesn't matter to the point I'm about to make. It's just being in that game where you're playing for something. It's win and get to the next round. It's win and advance in a tournament. It's not going to the playoffs and it's not competing for the playoffs, but it's something that a lot of guys on this roster have not experienced before. That kind of like, I guess we'll call it pressure, like that pressure of like a big game where there's stakes involved. Guys on this team, I mean, a lot of the younger guys have not experienced that before, and I think it'll be good for them. Win or lose, it'll be good for them to play in a game that feels like a playoff type game, even if it's not really. I think that's a step in the development of this team that they desperately need. And so it's good that they got themselves in this position where they're actually playing a game that semi-matters. And
So
I think
if they win the McDonald's Cup, will it be displayed somewhere or will it be tucked away in a
Wait, when did this become the McDonald's Cup?
McDonald's championship? Yeah.
When did this become McDonald's? I thought it was Emirates.
No, I'm saying, remember the McDonald's championship trophy they had?
Yeah.
I found it one night. It was
do you remember it was the night we watched the draft at
the draft.
old
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Yes, but I don't know why are we talking about the McDonald's? What does McDonald's have to do with this?
I'm saying if they win the NBA Cup, do they display it prominently? Do they?
I see.
Do you remember that? We were like in a closet and there was like Monty
at the old Spurs facility. I believe it was the Jeremy Sohan draft.
Yes, that's correct.
And this was the cup they won in Europe, like some preseason thing from like 2007 or something, right? And it was in a supply closet, like above the Cheez-Its and the
really
and the Raisin Bran. Like I said, it was a pantry. It wasn't a supply closet. It was a food pantry.
It looked exactly like my pantry.
I was just confused.
And Raisin Bran and the McDonald's Cup.
That's a good observation, Tom. I was just thrown by you calling it the McDonald's Cup because it was the
It was the
it's the Emirates.
The 1999 McDonald's championship. Yeah.
But the I think to answer your question, whether or not it was earnest or sincere or not, is the NBA makes you. they wouldn't be allowed to put the Emirates Cup in the pantry because like the NBA has, I believe, and I probably shouldn't speak out of school here, but I believe they've encouraged teams to display the cup and the banner in their arenas, which is why you have that ridiculous thing in crypto in Los Angeles where their in-season banner is hung alongside their mini NBA championship.
Do not put up a banner for this. I mean, the Spurs
They're supposed to.
The Spurs aren't going to win. The Spurs aren't going to win the whole thing. But if you do, don't put up a banner.
I think that they're supposed to. But
or what?
That'd be a good problem to have.
Or what? I'd rather take the fine.
People would like it.
You know the
banner raising ceremony.
Not in San Antonio. We are a title-winning town, like an actual title-winning town. We don't celebrate in-season tournaments here.
And the land of the Lakers is not a title-winning town.
Well, they just didn't have the gumption to tell Adam Silver to go get bent.
We're gonna replay this snippet of this podcast in several months on the night when the Spurs hang the in-season Emirates Cup banner, and you saying that anyone who did so does not have gumption. It's gonna get you in trouble.
I don't care. I'll stand by my lack of gumption comment.
Okay.
Just have some gumption. What is
have some? Do you have any other gumption-filled takes from the past week of Spurs action or NBA? Here, how about this? Sometimes when we're out in the world people have questions about the podcast. Some people are new to the podcast. Yeah, I know a couple people who just started listening to the podcast in the last couple of weeks or months, and they enjoy the show, and we appreciate that. And but the show is full of all kinds of little in jokes. You know, people ask about the secure location, and there's a story behind that, and I'm not going to get into it this week because I want to reward the guys, the OGs, the people who go way back to the beginning and remember those jokes. But a question that we get a lot from newcomers, especially younger newcomers, by younger I mean like younger than 40, is why do you call the Spurs the local Cagers? And we've explained this before on the show, but the reason I bring it up this week is because the panelists on this show were all enjoying Thanksgiving away from each other, which made it all the better last week.
That's what I gave thanks for the most.
Tom was doing his Thanksgiving thing. Jeff was doing his Thanksgiving thing. Nick was doing his Thanksgiving thing. I was doing mine. And I get this group text from a fellow panelist. And it's Jeff McDonald, who, and I'll let you tell the story, but this relates to the local Cagers because you sent photos to us from some old yearbook or some old scrapbook with newspaper clippings, and it talked about a track team, and it called them the Cindermen, which
Cinderman
is amazing.
Yeah.
And this goes to all the old nomenclature that used to be in newspapers about what you would call different sports athletes. Like the football players were, Tom, you can jump in, glitters, because I played
Gridders,
gridiron.
yeah, because of the gridiron, but I don't even know what gridiron means.
Yeah.
I guess I get
What are the others?
well, Cinderman I had not heard before. I thought them track stars were thin clads because they wore thin clothing.
Thin clads were track
I think I like Cinderman better.
And did you realize where the origin of Cinderman came from?
Because the track is made of cinder, correct?
The track is made of cinder. And anyway, in the old days, the basketball was played in a cage, like in high school gyms, and there'd be like chicken wire on the court. I don't know, that might have been when Tom was in high school. He can elaborate on this, but that's where Cagers came from. You'd look in the newspaper and it'd be like the J Cagers beat Holmes, or the Brackenridge Cagers beat McCullum, whatever.
And if you lived in a town like that was just, you know, a small town, maybe like maybe where you grew up, you could they would just say the local Cagers. They never put a name on it. And so there you go.
And back in the days when we were using words like Cracker Jack to describe something excellent.
See, there's a joke group.
Baseball guys were known as the Horsehide Nine.
The Horsehide Nine.
That's going way back.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was the whatever Airbnb. My family all met at like an Airbnb outside of San Marcos because we had people coming in from out of town, and in this Airbnb, you know, people just, it's their homes or whatever, or they just have like kitschy decorations, and one of them was a 1975 Southwest Texas university, or I guess college, yearbook. So I was flipping through that and found Cinderman.
That's good.
Southwest Texas State, now Texas State.
Correct.
Yes.
Before that, wasn't it the Texas Women's College?
It was Texas Teachers College.
Teachers College.
When LBJ was there.
Yeah.
LBJ would be Lyndon Baines Johnson, former president, one of the presidents of these United States.
That's good background for the kids, Tom. It's excellent. Married to
I mean, don't you have to explain these things nowadays?
You do. For the viewers and listeners at home,
President is
president is the chief executive of the country that we live in.
What game show did Lyndon Baines Johnson host before he became president?
Boy, I don't know.
I'm just guessing. I just assume that's a prerequisite.
Oh, I see. That's a good one there, Jeff. We have a week ahead to look at 3 home games after Jeff gets back from the Valley of the Sun. Played in pretty quick succession. 3 home games in 4 days against your Chicago Bulls, who the Spurs have a vested interest in, might be getting their draft pick this year. The Sacramento Kings, who the Spurs have a vested interest in, will be getting their draft pick in like 2030, 2031, something like that. And those are back-to-back on Thursday and Friday. And then on Sunday, the floundering New Orleans Pelicans, who are just beat up with injuries and not playing very well at all, visit Frostbank Center on Sunday. Those are the three we know for sure. We will find out after the Phoenix game on Tuesday night what the rest of next week entails. The league will assign games to fill out the end of the Emirates Cup. So we one home game, one road game.
I believe the Spurs could be at either Oklahoma City or Portland.
Yeah.
If they lose.
Home game maybe against Golden State, or well, it probably wouldn't be because Golden State's in the cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have some of a framework as to what to expect.
If they win, they're going to be playing somewhere, I think.
Yeah. The other three teams, if they win, are, I believe, Houston and Dallas and Golden State.
Yeah, well, those will probably be the other three, yeah.
And then looking further ahead, mid-December, Atlanta, Portland at home, and then at Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And there's a common theme in all these games.
Yeah. Yes, it could be a good month. But just for the next, just for the three home games, we will conclude with our traditional prognostications. You got your Bulls, your Kings, your Pelicans, 3 games in 4 days. I will start off by making a bold proclamation that the local Cagers will go 3-0. Thomas?
Wow.
2-1, losing to Sacramento on the second night of the back-to-back. Back-to-back.
That seems about right. 2-1, I guess, is my prediction. Although, they're still
Sacramento does kind of owe them one. They're 2-0 against the Kings so far.
Yeah.
Here's another thing to think about though with that Kings series. When you look ahead to whether or not your Spurs can make the play-in or the playoffs or what have you, like other teams that they could be around at the end there include the Sacramento Kings. And if you win a third game against the Sacramento Kings, that clinches that tiebreaker, which may or may not be important. So that's an extra incentive there.
It's hard to beat a team three times so close.
It is
together. Like we even saw that with Utah.
Yep.
And Utah snuck one in at the Frost. So second out of the back-to-back, I could see the Kings.
Yeah. The local Cagers weren't very good the last time they played in the second of a back-to-back, although that was traveling from Utah to face the Lakers on Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah. That's another test for them. And I mentioned the word incentive there, and it brought to mind that's the word that Tom Orsborn, I believe, taught Victor Wembanyama earlier this. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
Tom asked him about an extra incentive, and he said, I haven't heard that word before.
Yeah.
So that was good. Can always learn something. We will try to learn something more interesting between now and next week when we reconvene again.
Probably won't.
You have any closing thoughts?
So Victor's like that guy who you go into, like one of us when we go into a restaurant, good restaurant, and the menu's just overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things to choose from. You just having a hard time picking one.
Yeah, it's not
A hard time picking one.
every so often you make a bad order.
Sometimes you got to go with what the place is known best for. That's my rule.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong there.
So always order the McNuggets is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's why I always get the McNuggets.
And when you're in a place even nicer than that, you get distracted by both the menu and the waiter's insistence that you use your hat stool. That's right. That's another callback.
More and more inside jokes.
Anyway,
The children listening to this podcast have no idea what's going on right now.
that's why we
Did the
make more of an
adults?
effort to be a family show. Anyway,
I mean, there's children that have been born since the hat stool story that are now listening to the podcast, and you have to explain it to them.
Well, we're running out of time. We'll do that another time.
Maybe we need an episode where we just explain all our stupid jokes.
That's a possibility. But as long as the Spurs continue to be good at basketball, they give us actual basketball topics to discuss, which is new for the show. And we will keep that up. We might do that again next week when we enter your digital players again. Until then, take care of each other and keep it real.